24 hours, from Donald Trump's first 100 days speech to the interview with Terry Moran, to just today with the release of the US naturalized, I believe, citizen up in Vermont. There are so many things. So let me just get to it. And if you are just joining me on this journey for the first time, definitely take a moment to subscribe. This is free to subscribe to my channel. And if you want to do the most, join my membership, because there are so many extra perks that you could have by joining the membership as well. I'm going to start off with this story here, because this is brand spanking new as of this morning. If you are not aware, this is from The Guardian. Federal judge in Vermont orders the release of Columbia student Mohsen Madawi. And I hope I'm saying his name correctly. It says Madawi, a lawful permanent U.S. resident, was detained and ordered deported by the Trump administration despite not being charged with a crime. Okay, this is really important. And if you haven't been following this story, this is really significant, because basically, hey Vivian, how are you? Basically, they're saying that this guy, because of his organization / actions during the protesting of the treatment of the people of Palestine, he was so bad that they had to deem him like a deportable person, because he was so effective, basically. Not because he was violent or that he was charged with any crime, but they basically took him and transferred him to another facility, brought him back because the judge was like, no, don't take him away from his family, all these things. And then now we've got this. Okay, let me give you the rest of this story. It says a federal judge in Vermont ordered the release of Mohsen Madawi, a Palestinian green card holder and student at Columbia University who was detained and ordered deported by the Trump administration without being charged of a crime. Quote, the 2 weeks of detention so far demonstrate great harm to a person who has been charged with no crime, said Jeffrey Crawford, a U.S. district judge, at a hearing Wednesday, according to ABC News. Mr. Madawi, I will order you released. This is going head to head with Marco Rubio's State Department, which basically was like, nope, this guy's got to go, right? And to say, I will order you released, it is now going to be another back and forth between the U.S. federal government with Trump administration at the head and the U.S. federal government and the judges who are supposed to be law and order. What do you think about this tug of war that obviously is happening, where they say he's got to go, he's so bad, but he has legal status and he hasn't been charged with a crime, and this judge saying, basically, yeah. I'm interested in this too. Okay, so Foxhound just came into my comments, if you're not watching and you're just listening, and said, Sandra, nobody cares, just pay your student loans. Now, I'm pretty sure you're referencing one of the videos that I made about paying back student loans. And in no way did I reference myself. I'm pretty sure in that video I said, people will not pay their student loans. Everybody will just avoid it, okay? So I want you to go back and make sure that as you're watching my videos, you're very clear on who I'm speaking about, because I wasn't talking about myself. And I have never been, as far as my student loans, I've never been in default. Thank you very much. So make sure you're accurate when you're basically hurling the little slings that you are in my comments, because it's very important that we are accurate about who we are saying is not doing something, because then it would be slanderous. Oh, Foxhound wants to know what degree I got. I actually have 3. So I have an undergraduate degree from the University of Oregon, where I majored in sociology and minored in communication studies. Then I got my Master of Communication Management from the University of Southern California. And then I got my doctorate of Doctor of Education, also from the University of Southern California. So there you go. We are learning new things about me today. All right. Let's move on to another story because we have so many to cover. Also, if you're thinking about student loans, Foxhound, there is a news story about a student loan servicer that is being investigated just as of this morning by a few, I believe, attorneys general I believe the servicer is called Mohelia or Mohela. I'm not really quite sure about the spelling. All right, let's go to something that I think is absolutely insane. Okay, this one says Lindsey Graham. Okay, he's talking about President Trump. I was excited to hear that President Trump is open to the idea of being the next pope. Oh my goodness. Like, what is Lindsey Graham thinking when he's like, okay, this would truly be a dark horse candidate. Dark indeed. He's right about that. But I would ask the papal conclave and Catholic faithful to keep an eye open or to keep an open mind about this possibility. The first Pope US President combination has many upsides. Watching for white smoke Trump, and then he's got the Roman numerals. Like, oh my God. No, Trump is not going to be the next Pope. He is not going to serve in both capacities. And it is really, really deliciously entertaining. We're going to put it that way, to hear Lindsey Graham in this sort of context. Foxhound says Oregon State is better. Let me just say this. A lot of people believe that Oregon State is better. They actually have really great programs when it comes to, I think, agricultural degrees. They've got a lot of agricultural science degrees. And they actually, ironically, when I was there, this was many, many years ago, this was my undergraduate degree, they were the only, between the two, Oregon and Oregon State, that actually had some Black fraternities and sororities. Oregon has fraternities and sororities, but at the time they did not have any that were African American. I think I'm forgetting which ones they were. Oh gosh, I know they have the one that is what Kamala Harris was part of. I think it's oh God, the AKAs. I think they have the AKAs at Oregon State. Anyways, they have great programs. What we were in at the time was the Pac-10. Then it became the Pac-12, and then now Oregon is part of the Big Ten, which still doesn't make any sense to me because they have more than 10 universities or colleges in their group. I don't know. It's a weird dynamic over there, but they've got great athletes, they've got great programs, and I have always been, part of that sort of like, I love college sports more than professional sports, so they always had some great teams. All right, Vivian, well, you never know. Yeah, you never know. You never know. Like, could this really happen? I would be blown. My mind would be blown here. But let's keep going. So this is, just so you know it's true, I took a different screenshot of the actual thing so that you know that I'm not just making shit up. Okay, so let's talk about this. Breaking, this is, I believe, yesterday. The Heritage Foundation withdrew its anti-DEI proposal to IBM for shareholder vote today, originally submitted for vote at IBM's annual meeting. Why Heritage withdrew its anti-DEI proposal is unknown. It says earlier today, shareholders at American Express voted to reject an anti-DEI proposal. Now, a lot of these proposals are going out to different sorts of board members and board meetings to keep that anti-DEI message from the Trump administration rolling through corporations like Target. I believe that Costco had a membership vote and they voted it down. I'm pretty sure that Apple also had shareholders vote it down. And so they keep proposing these to big time corporations because they want to make sure that they are not only controlling the public sector with like the federal government and anti-DEI, but also the private sector with anti-DEI. So it's very interesting how this is going. So I wonder, leave a comment, let me know, why do you think the Heritage Foundation withdrew its anti-DEI proposal that was supposed to go to the board of IBM? I'm thinking that because other boards have since rejected it, and they've basically said, our customers, our constituents want us to have these particular values, that they are not wanting to be rejected across the board. Because just like Harvard was kind of attacked for its position on a lot of things, they did not back down, right? They went like, hey, we're not going to do what you want us to do. We're going to go full force. And then a lot of universities and colleges were like, yeah, we're not going to do that too. And I think with a lot of different corporations saying, no, we reject this proposal, and it's on record with a vote, that causes more of a sort of media stir, like creating sort of articles like this, where now it's in the media that these corporations don't want to do what they're proposing to do because it doesn't benefit them. It doesn't give them any sort of leverage with their customers. If you have been on social media recently, you would have seen a ton of videos that have been talking about Target. Now, Target, they did themselves in, and a lot of African American people have not visited Target. There has been a very big boycott, okay? And in the last few days, apparently on Target's social media, they are presenting different products, and they have a darker skin hand, okay, in all of the product videos. And what a lot of people in these videos have been saying is that you cannot lure us back by putting a black hand into your social media. So definitely head over to Target's social media and you tell me in the comments what you see. Is this Target trying to lure African American shoppers back by making sure that they place a model's hand that happens to look like they were a black model? It's very curious because I have heard from many social media accounts that they are trying to lure people back by placing a black model's hand in all of their sort of social media in the past few days. Very curious, very, very curious what's going on. All right, let's look at this one. This is a little bit of a headline notification that says CNN is the notification, Trump administration dismisses all authors of major climate report, throwing U.S. assessment into limbo. So I'm curious about this too. What is your opinion about why they would dismiss the authors of a major climate report? Because to me, it says, we don't want you to know what they know, or we don't believe what they're saying. So I'm curious, do you think that what they know is not factual or accurate? Or do you think that the Trump administration dismissing, hey Cosmo, dismissing all of these authors of a major climate report are just saying climate change doesn't exist, or their reporting is inaccurate, or we don't want you to know what their report says? Because to me, I'm thinking it's the latter. To me, I'm thinking they don't want you to know what this climate report is saying, and they want to potentially discredit these authors, and could tarnish their name for the rest of their career because now they've been dismissed. What do you think? Is this report false? Are the authors misinformed, or are they trying to hide the assessment? Are they trying to hide the information from the public? Now, I personally think that a lot of the things that they are dismantling, that they are cutting, they are doing on purpose so that people are not informed. If this is your first time joining me, or you like what we're talking about, definitely hit the like button. Make sure that you're liking this live stream so that it is sending it out to more people so that we can have more people join the conversation. If you're watching this on a replay later today, welcome. Vivian says, they're trying to hide, I guess. I mean, I would think this, if you put out a report, and it's this sort of climate report, and you believe that everybody can have sort of discernment about what's going on in the world, and they can decide from reading it what's factual, what's true, what they see with their own eyes, why take it away? Why dismiss all of the authors? Unless you think that maybe they're overpaid. Maybe they think this is part of the waste, like we shouldn't be paying them this much, right? Maybe that's the issue, is more about how much they're paying them. I'm not quite sure. All right, there's so much to talk about. Like, I couldn't even screenshot all of it this morning. Hold on one second. All right, I completely forgot to turn on my do not disturb, so I don't want to be disturbed while we're chatting. All right, so let's go to this one. Trump thinks beleaguered Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is gonna get his act together. Now, I had to chuckle at this because this was part of, I believe, the Terry Moran interview that happened recently. And I know that when they confirmed him, part of the issues that were brought up were his womanizing, we'll say, right? Because he was, I guess there was some sort of contract that he had with somebody as far as like a non-disclosure agreement. Something happened there, but he was never charged and like went to jail or anything. And then there were also accusations from his, I think, previous wife about alcoholism and alcohol abuse, and also from, I believe, former colleagues that echoed these sort of sentiments. Um, the fact that he's saying he's going to get it together when we already had this sort of airing of issues during his Senate confirmation hearing is quite alarming. Okay. I have actually talked about this a few times where I think that Donald Trump has to have these sort of distractions, and he has to be his own distraction with whatever he's saying and spewing off about the economy and the trade wars and blah, blah, blah. But he also needs this sort of two-headed snake, right? He needs this other distraction so that he can be the sort of like voice of reason, right? So before it used to be Elon Musk, right? And now Elon Musk is slowly like pulling back from his position in order to take care of his businesses. And this is an interesting one because he's the next part of the two-headed snake. He has had not one, not two, but three different sort of instances with Signalgate. The first one was, oh my gosh, they put the Atlantic editor-in-chief on the Signalgate chat, and he was supposedly, spilling the tea about what was going to happen with the Yemen airstrikes or whatever. Second Signalgate was, oh my gosh, he had his wife and his brother and apparently his personal attorney on a Signalgate chat too. They were privy to all of that information as well, supposedly. And then the third Signalgate issue was about him installing some sort of like dirty private internet line into his office in order to access Signal from like his office computer, right? So there have been not one, not two, but three, what we would call maybe three strikes and you're out in like what we would normally call a baseball, thing. And yet he's going to get his act together. And to me, that signals to what my logic is. I need him to stay around. I need his distraction because his position is so important as the Secretary of Defense that we need him to stick around because I need that distraction. And then for me to sound like, hey, I'm going to give this guy another chance, right? This is Donald. I had a talk with him, right? Like, what do you think? Tell me in the comments, should he be given another chance after all of these sort of discretions? Because to me, I'm thinking this is not it. This is not it. And it's definitely one of those things where it's controllable, it's fixable. This is another part of the article if you want to take a screenshot later. And, it does say he has, quote, had a talk with Hegseth. Yeah, it's in a full-blown meltdown. That's what the reports were at the Pentagon. And any building or any department that you don't want to have a meltdown at is the Pentagon. I don't want to see people running around with their heads cut off because of nuclear codes being leaked. Like, that's just not it. All right, let's go to something that I think is very significant. Don't mind the houses because this was like an ad. It's this headline here from Business Insider, okay? If you weren't around yesterday, you missed that Amazon was supposedly going to start showing the sort of import tax that was part of the sort of trade war that we're having with China, okay? And the White House had a full panic, okay, to the point of Caroline Leavitt holding up Jeff Bezos's photo during the press room briefing and saying it was a hostile and political act that he was going to show the prices on the Amazon website. Basically, how dare he tell the American people how much their products were going to cost them? Oh my gosh, what was he thinking? And apparently, Donald Trump called Jeff Bezos personally. He was pissed, according to the reports. And then Jeff Bezos was like, oh no, that was, not going to happen. And so they're not doing it. A lot of people think that Jeff Bezos backed down. that Jeff Bezos caved, his business caved to the White House. In my opinion, I think it was strategic. I think it was a leaked piece of information that he wanted to float across the bow, like a little shot across the bow of the White House to say, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. And we know that it's unpopular and you probably won't like it, right? And then once the news got out, he pulled back because Jeff Bezos knows how much he can do to ruin this administration. So I think it was a calculated risk because I think on that call, I think Jeff Bezos made it known that he wanted something else. He was doing his own bidding by putting that out there. Now, you can argue with me in the comments, but tell me, do you think Amazon won that round, meaning Jeff Bezos, or do you think they lost that round? Because I think it's just the first round. Dan says, nobody was fired after our Afghan allies were falling off of our planes, fleeing Afghanistan. I don't see anything. This new guy did that amounts to what the last guy oversaw. Okay, rightfully so. Everybody has their own opinion. I don't think that we should say this guy didn't go to jail, so this guy shouldn't go to jail, right? Because being impeached, let's talk about Donald Trump, being impeached twice, having 34 felonies and being able to then become president, I don't think that should happen, right? And so if you say, well, this guy was impeached and he's still president, so that guy being impeached, he should still be president, I personally think that that doesn't equate either, right? Just because he got to be president and he's a 34-time felon, I don't think the next guy should have 34 felons either. Okay, so definitely like this live stream if you think that any of this is helpful information, because I really do think that people need to kind of keep an open mind to what this could be. And what I'm talking about is this Jeff Bezos article in Business Insider. Jeff Bezos backed Slate Auto announces factory location for its $25,000 electric truck. Okay, now the fact that it's an electric truck in the face of Elon Musk's Cybertruck that has been getting so much backlash tells me that this tech bro is jostling for position. Okay, one's on his way out and another one is on his way in. Except Jeff Bezos doesn't exactly have the sort of persona that Elon Musk has. Okay, so a lot of people believe that Amazon helps us. Amazon is in our lives and it is very integral into how we get our packages and blah, blah, blah. Now, some people hate Amazon and think that it is just as evil as Tesla, okay? So you can have your opinion on that. But what I believe happened yesterday was Jeff Bezos doing his little shot across the bow that was very strategic, pulling back when he needed to, but he got on the phone, right? He always has access to Donald Trump. Don't get it twisted. He always has the access, but I think he got something in return. And I think this article coming out around the same time is very, very interesting timing that he now has a factory and he's going to be doing his own little electric truck, and it's going to be affordable and it's not bad looking. So when you look at this truck, this is an image of the Slate truck, and it's converted into an SUV here. But let me just tell you, this is not a Cybertruck looking kind of car. It's not what people might think is like super futuristic and like edgy. This kind of looks like a regular truck, right? With a little, thing on the back. And what it says here, let me get out of the way here. It says, Slate truck, which comes standard with 150 miles of range and a starting price of about $25,000, is expected to be the cheapest new electric truck and pickup. I don't know. I'm looking at this and thinking he is moving his stuff around. He's wheeling and dealing back there. And of course, we all thought that when Jeff Bezos got up on that stage and was behind Donald Trump with the inauguration, because he contributed money, that he was really gunning for the USPS because he is part of that whole kind of system already. And with, I think it is Louis DeJoy, I'm forgetting his last name, he stepped down from the USPS, and then people were like, yeah, enter Jeff Bezos, right? And Jeff Bezos had a little bit of that sort of negative backlash press from the Blue Origin mission recently with Katy Perry, Lauren Sanchez, what's her name, Gail from the morning show, like all the backlash, right? About space tourism, how costly it is, how it could be polluting the environment, and how we're all about to be in this depression, and we're for sure in this recession. But yet all these celebrities are flying into near outer space, right? And all of the sort of like wastefulness of it all. Tell me what you think. Is he the new EV truck guy? I don't know. I mean, he's positioning himself to look as like, hey, this is affordable. It's a truck. It's like, it's not super, quirky and weird. It's your standard truck. I think this is all about positioning. Definitely like this if you have not already, and so that we can add more people to our conversation. Vivian says, well, better than Tesla, Elon did get his chance and he blew it. I think you're right. I think if Elon had played his cards a little bit better without just like fully cutting all of those workers and doing it with precision, I think they would have had a much, much different outcome. I think he would have been looked at as like a great decision maker instead of just like, hey, I'm gonna do what I want and you're gonna love me kind of a person. Edsley, I can't see your message. But I do think that this is positioning Jeff Bezos in a different light. He needed a little bit of a win after all that backlash, especially when like the door opened. Do you remember the footage where the door opened of Blue Origin? Like prematurely, I guess we might call that in the footage. And then he had to like go back and like use the tool to get it open, and he had fallen down in the dirt, and like he had a little bit of a mishap. Okay, so he, I think, is strategically positioning himself to look better than Elon, do things better than Elon, and present this car company as like a great American alternative. Okay, so, and I think the car company, if I remember correctly, I'm trying to find it, it is gonna be in Warsaw, Indiana, right? So if you're thinking about the positioning of him and his company being in Indiana, it's not factories in China, right? So he's definitely taking this positioning, and I think he's gonna potentially do really well, but who knows? All right, so let's go to a few other things that I have in my purview that maybe you don't have on your radar, okay? And this is Gavin Newsom, okay? So this is from The Wrap, which is on Yahoo, and this is from yesterday. It says, Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly agree. It's a mistake. This is Megyn Kelly over here and Tucker Carlson. It says, it's a mistake for Republicans to go on Gavin Newsom's podcast. Okay, so if you remember, not too long ago, Gavin Newsom was, jostling for position when Trump came out to California during the sort of fire fiasco that we had here in Los Angeles, in Malibu, in close to Pasadena, and all the things. Okay, we had the Eaton fire and all the things. Okay, then he started a podcast. And I believe a few Republicans have already gone onto his show. And what these two are saying is, don't do it, okay? Don't do it, because a lot of people think that the podcast was Gavin Newsom's sort of launch into the presidential campaign of 2028. It's a soft launch, okay? It's just getting the conversation started. But a lot of people did not, from like a Democratic side, they did not like the fact that he did have Republicans on. Okay, so when you think about this, it says here, representatives from Newsom's office did not immediately contact us. It's not the first time, okay, has come under fire by the Megyn Kelly show with guest Charlie Kirk, conservative media personality and Turning Point USA co-founder, saying that the media effort will derail Newsom's political career. Okay, now he is defending himself, saying that the point is not to go viral or to, quote, own the conservatives by winning any sort of debates. Okay, so Gavin Newsom is saying, hey, I'm not trying to go viral. I'm not trying to win debates against all of these Republicans, okay? But I do think he's trying to go viral. And I do think that this is what he's trying to do strategically to position himself differently from other Democratic candidates that are potentially going to be running for president in 2028. I think he's trying to position himself as open to discussion, okay? Open to having discussion with Republicans or even far right leaning Republicans to say, hey, I'm willing to have an open dialogue. Now, a lot of people don't like Gavin Newsom either specifically for doing this or for his stance on trans athletes, and especially if they've lived in California and they just don't like how he has, run California. Now, I've lived in California for a very long time, and I think that he has built up California's economy to the point of, I think it's number 4 in the world. Like, we are the 4th largest economy in the world. Not only do they have Hollywood, they have the Garment District, they have all of Northern California with all of the tech, we have middle of California with all of the agriculture. So I'm just saying, this is a very interesting sort of dialogue that the conservatives are having about Gavin Newsom to say, don't do it. Don't go on his podcast because you don't know what he's going to kind of own you on, okay? That is a very, very interesting argument to have this early in the conversation about presidential candidates for 2028. They are nervous. They are very nervous. Now, what I think he's doing with the podcast is I think he's going to open up the podcast to conservative people, conservative leaders, far right even leaders, and then he's going to do the pivot. Okay, he's going to do all of these sort of interviews to say, I am open to working across the aisle. And then he's going to make a massive shift to the center. Okay, Dan says Ford stock, $9.90. General Motors, $45.07. Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler, one stock of Stellantis at $9.24. Tesla is at $279.06. Tesla is 4 times larger than Chevy, Cadillac, GM, Ford, Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler combined. But isn't that inflation inflated value, we'll say. Tesla is valued as a tech company. It's not valued in the same way that we value other car companies, even though other car companies have electronic vehicles. So I would argue that this is just misinformation, not from you, but by the people valuing Tesla. They are valuing it, I would say, incorrectly. Not because they don't have good technology, but when people who are looking at the amount of times that it has had accidents, or the amount of times that it's not user-friendly, as far as whatever it is. Like I've seen, I think it was the co-founder of Apple, I think it was Steve Wozniak, talking about the sort of user interface of Tesla vehicles and how it's not it, right? So I'm not sure if it is it, because I've never owned a Tesla. But Dan says Tesla had the best EV though. Now, a lot of people would argue that China is making the best EV and the most affordable EVs. So I don't know, because I don't have one, and I'm a little bit weary on it right now about owning an electric vehicle, especially when Spain and was it Spain and Portugal? No, Spain had like its entire country electricity went out the other day. Like the grids of the US are not prepared for everybody to have an electronic vehicle. It's just not. Like in my apartment complex, we have electric vehicle hookups, right? But what happens when, they start taking too much electricity, and then, we have rolling blackouts here in Los Angeles, in the state of California. So during the summer, even just randomly, we'll have a rolling blackout period where too many people are using electricity and they will just pull your electricity. It's just on a roll. Like it is just, we don't even know when that's coming. But that's what I think is going to happen when too many people own electronic vehicles. We're going to be experiencing these sort of rolling blackouts due to too many people having to use the energy. And not because we can't create energy. I mean, we have wind power, solar power, like water pressure power, like all of the things. And I'm probably saying these wrong, but we have ways of generating power, right? But I think that the sort of scarcity of it all, just like what we just saw in Spain, I'm not sure what the problem was when the entire country goes without power just in an instant. It's insane, but it's just kind of like, what do we do then, right? Because what's happening right now is there is not enough infrastructure. From what I've been kind of reading, there's not enough infrastructure in the United States for people to even like charge up if they wanted to do like a cross-country journey. Like that sort of, we have to like reserve our charge up station. What happens when they take our information and want to share it with other people, like where we've been, how far we've driven, what, you know, what kind of accidents we've been in, all those things, like as far as like privacy and security too, about what you're doing with your vehicle, where your vehicle is, all those things. That's really important too, because there was that blow up of the Tesla truck that happened in front of, I think, the Trump Tower in Las Vegas, I think, not too long ago. Like, I feel like all my dates are combining. And Tesla was able to share the information of that vehicle along with other vehicles that were at the same charging stations at the same time, and people were up in arms, right, about their privacy and their data needing to be more protected than it was, because Elon Musk said, hey, we can just give you the information to the police, right? And that was a big deal at the time. And I don't know, because we've had so many different stories come out, we haven't even seen all of those privacy concerns even come back up. Vivian said it did happen in Portugal and Spain, chaos all around. Yes, Portugal was the other. And I heard parts of France as well. And I don't know how widespread it was in France, but to have an entire country go down, and I'm not saying that the entire country of the United States would go down, but we just heard from Canada not too long ago talking about, hey, should we turn you off? And I think it was just sort of like on the border, you know, border states having to kind of decide on Canada's part whether or not they were going to shut off, you know, the power to the US. And I think obviously people have backup power, right? Hospitals have backup generators. We have a lot of, you know, mechanisms to support ourselves. But do we have enough, right? If everybody switched from gas powered to electric powered vehicles, I'm not sure. Like I said, there's so many things, so many different elements to this. Here we go. Let's keep going. Hegseth announces he's ending Pentagon involvement in Trump initiative empowering women, championed by Ivanka Trump and Marco Rubio. Now, this is something that's very interesting because it's another distraction from his sort of dealings and failings, okay? So he's now going to end something. This is from April 29th, yesterday, something that was started by the first Trump administration. So it's very interesting how they're like, we don't need that, except they're the ones who started it. And it's not necessary. I'm not sure if they're not wanting to be a part of this because maybe it's too expensive, but to empower women and to take away something that Ivanka started is just very puzzling. It's just, it's a news story, you know, at best, but it is not, it's not headline grabbing in a way that makes you look good. Like, it's something that his administration wanted. And now it's like, oh, we're going to take that back. Dan said, did Canada forget what we did to the Middle East over oil? Cutting off the power in winter was a silly threat to make. I'm not saying that they are right to make threats, but they are definitely within their own purview to protect their own country. So I would just say that. When we think about this particular story, though, it says it remains unclear how the program will end, given Hegseth also acknowledged the Pentagon will continue enacting, quote, the minimums of the program required by statute. Because this isn't just like, hey, we have this program. It's an actual thing that was passed, I believe, by Congress. So it's not something he can just eliminate. So he's saying they're getting rid of it, but yet he has to follow a statute. So it's, again, something they're putting forward that they can't exactly get rid of, right? It's like an executive order by Donald Trump saying, we're ending birthright citizenship, but really, they can't without an act of Congress. Changing the Constitution, it's going to go to the US Supreme Court. Like, there are a lot of things that or sort of bluster all around, that they still have to follow the rule of law. So that's where we're at with so many stories. And I can't help but think that today is going to be an interesting one because Kamala Harris has been sending out emails like this. Okay, this was from Thursday. She sent out one on Friday. She sent out one on Sunday. She also sent one, I believe, on Monday. And these are all fundraising emails. Act Blue is a very important organization because they are kind of the bigger Democratic arm of fundraising. And now they're being targeted by the Trump administration. So it's very interesting how many emails she has sent out to sort of fundraise for the Democratic Party in recent days, and that she will be speaking today. So a lot of people are looking forward to hearing what she has to say, especially the day following Donald Trump's 100 days in office for his second term, and following the sort of economic downturn. We'll just say the crash, the market manipulation, the trade wars and tariffs, the ports that are empty, the empty shelves that are to come, the sort of throwing people away and abducting them and throwing them into El Salvadorian prisons without due process. All the things that Donald Trump has done in the past 100 days that he has touted as like, hey, I made English the official language of the United States. Like things like this, like, hey, we did that. But again, he is really destroying and dismantling a lot of this country. And here will enter, we don't know for what, Kamala Harris. Now, whether she is just going to spread a positivity message, whether she's going to try to unite a party, we have also seen AOC and Bernie Sanders out there. You let me know in the comments of this video, not right here, but in the comments once it posts, come back to the page and let me know what you think about what her message will be and if she's just going to announce like she's running for governor or what. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Definitely subscribe to my page here on YouTube. I do YouTube Live every morning, Monday through Friday, and Substack Live every Monday through Friday on the evening side. And I am so grateful that you are here, and I will see you again tomorrow morning. Bye, guys.